mean, first of all, it is an exciting time of year. Are you enjoying the process?
100%. Yeah, it's a fun process. I got to travel a lot around the U.S. and do a lot of different stuff from the combine to the East West Shrine Bowl in Las Vegas. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been exciting to watch you as well. I mean, Combine Week looks great, so yeah, it's been good to watch you. Look, we'll get straight into it. I know you've probably got things to do, but one
All
of the
good.
reasons kind of wanted to talk to you is you are a great story, especially back here in Europe. Everybody is kind of rooting for you in this draft process and coming to the NFL. So just kind of take me back to kind of growing up in Italy, born in Rome. That is a very unique story to the NFL. What was that like growing up in Rome?
It was, I don't know, it's hard to describe. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of free time. We would hang out always with my friends. You get a lot of more freedom in Italy, in my opinion, compared to here in the U.S., where all they do is stay at home, um, do schoolwork and play sports. I had a brother, so love growing up with him. We pretty close. We 2 years apart. So I was always hanging out with him and my older cousin, which is 3 years apart. But it's pretty much we all in the same wave. I don't know. It was an interesting time.
Did you grow up in like a touristy area? What kind of area in Rome were you at?
No, I grew up more in a residential area. I was born in the north side of Rome, and then when I was about 8, I moved to the south side of Rome. My area is called Portuense, Colli Portuense, which is more residential, but it's about 10 minutes from downtown, from the Coliseum and all that stuff. So,
I mean, as somebody who goes as a tourist, are you kind of, I mean, I love the Colosseum and all that kind of stuff. Are you over that by now? Are you over all the touristy stuff and the Trevi Fountain, that kind of thing?
yep. I know the craziest part is that growing up in Rome, I always drove by the Coliseum. I always saw them a lot of times, but I never went in for some reason. And the first time that I went in, it was actually after I moved here to the US and I went back and I just wanted to be a tourist. So I bought a ticket and went in for the first time, because you miss it more once you leave.
Is there anything that, I mean, I guess people in New York always say that they don't care about Times Square and that kind of thing. What was there anything that tourists would do in Rome that would kind of get on your nerves and get on the locals' nerves? What did you make of tourists coming to Rome?
I don't really mind tourists coming to Rome. Everybody coming to appreciate the beautiful city that it is. So I just understand. Um, Only the lines, the queues sometimes are so long with all the tourists in restaurants or even ice cream shops, and especially in the summer when it gets packed, it's just tough to walk around because it's so hot, no AC. So it's nice to have tourists because it's a beautiful city, but at the same time, sometimes it make everything slower.
I wanted to ask you about your mom as well, because she was obviously a big part of this storyline. You're growing up. Just talk to me about how important has she been throughout your life and this journey that you're on?
I mean, of course, she's my mom. She brought me to this world. She's fundamental for my story, and it's the main part. But people tend to say that I'm a lot like her. She growing up, she traveled a lot. She left the house when she was about 18, went to live in France. She lived in Scotland. She traveled all across the world, South America, Asia. Um, Growing up, she was a little crazy like me, I would say. Love to travel, love to study and art and history and stuff like me. Love discovering new places. And now she works for the FAO, which is great for her, I believe, because she deals with all this international stuff. She gets to travel for work. And she's my motivation. She always pushed me to be better than what I was. Um, and what she always tell me when I would complain about my situation or whatever would happen, she would say, "You, I will lose a bicicletta or a pedala," which in Italian is like you won at your bike, now you got to pedal, right? You push yourself in your situation, now go hard. And she's a big part of why I do everything.
Yeah, it's funny you say it. I was gonna ask you, would you know when you're in trouble if she's spoken a different language? Would she turn the language on you?
She sometimes what she used to do when we were kids, since she knows more languages than me,
Yeah.
she curse in a different language.
Right.
So we but the thing is that we just learn curse words in a different language. That was fun.
Did she encourage you to learn different languages as well? I think you speak three. Am I right in saying you speak three languages now? Was she part of that?
Yeah, she was a huge part of that. Like we've been studying three languages since I can remember, since we were about 5, 6 years old. Both me and my brother took English and Spanish together with Italian. She wanted us to learn how to play instruments, so both me and my brother play an instrument. I play the drums, he does the guitar. She wanted us in martial arts. That's why I started with judo, and then I got into mixed martial arts and to swim as well. That's why both me and my brothers are swimmers. My brother.
Is there a bit of rivalry there with you and your brother? What's that relationship like?
I mean, it's hard to describe. He's just like he's my blood. Like growing up, we were always in the same room. We slept in the same room. We did everything together. As I said, we're not far apart. We're just less than 2 years apart. We share friends and everything. Um, I talk to him on the daily. Uh, he's just he's just like a part of me.
Was part of your upbringing as well, with the way your mum traveled around? Did you get to see a lot of the world?
We did. A great thing that my mom wanted to do was to travel around the world and show us as much as we could. So most of the times when I was younger, she tried to take us on trips, whether it was Colombia or like where we've been. We've been to England, Scotland, Switzerland. We travel a whole bunch, and that's what got me into traveling. That's what pushed me to just move when I was 17 because I was ready to do this move, and um, I was feeling pretty confident because I already had seen a little bit of the world. I knew how to travel, and that's why I was pretty calm and collected.
What was your impression of England when you came over here? Different to Rome?
Uh, I don't even know where to start. It's so different from Rome. Starting from the people, the food, the weather. I've been to London. I really like London. It's a huge city. It's bigger than what I thought, but there's a lot to do. It's really interesting. Lots of history, museums, which I love. Um, it was a really interesting place. It was fun. I enjoyed Scotland as well. My aunt actually is from Scotland. That's why I went to Edinburgh and Glasgow. So the whole island is really beautiful.
As someone who I guess has seen a lot of Europe, what have you made of the way the game has grown over here? Because speaking to you today, the NFL is enormous over here in this continent. Does that kind of, do you feel a part of that? How does that make you feel to see that, how the game that you play has grown over here?
Um, I feel like I want to become part of it. I want to be one of the reasons, one of the main protagonists that are gonna push football in Europe and make it grow as much as possible. Um, when I fell in love with the sport, it wasn't really that big, but I've seen it growing a lot. I from listening to older people, I knew it was bigger in the 70s or 80s. They had kind of an NFL fever. They had NFL Europe, and I'm just trying to bring it back to those days and make it even bigger. I showed that it's possible to go from Europe to play here in the United States. So I want to push as many kids as possible to do this, and change their life possibly. And I wanna bring back the sport and give back as much as I can.
Just before we move on to football, I wanted to ask you about your name. A lot of people ask, what is the origin of your name? What's the story there?
So the story that I told everybody was that my dad had this Bible that was a gift from his older brother, which he used to read on the island really often. And for some reason, he fell in love with a prophet, Habakkuk, which is one of the 12 minor prophets in the Old Testament. Um, and he's actually the story is interesting because he's the only one in the Old Testament which really questioned God and ask him why do bad things happen to good people. It has a conversation kind of. So even though it's a short book, it's a really interesting one. And I guess he wanted me to grow up, start questioning stuff, and be different from everybody else, and that's what I happen to become. I guess the name is part of it.
Just a word on your late father as well. What kind of influence has he had on your life, and how proud are you to do what you do today for him?
I mean, he as well was a huge influence. He passed away when I was 13, so I was still pretty young. I was still learning my way in the world, but He was so he put such a huge I mean, he was my role model. I don't even know how to explain it, but all his teachings, all the things that he tried to put into me are still here with me. You know, the way I act, how I think, how I relate to people. He's a huge influence in all of these things for me.
To have gone through what you did at a young age, has that helped you build who you are today, do you think?
Yeah, that was definitely part. Uh, it was a part of my story. It was I'm here today and I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm who I am because of that as well. It was just a step in a way. It made me grow up faster. It made me realize how the world works. You know, I had to start thinking about taking care of my family, and I believe that that's a huge part of why I got till this point. Um, I learned how to push myself since a young age, so now it just comes easy.
People who will kind of watch you come into the NFL will wonder, how did a kid that was born in Rome get into football? So tell me, where did football begin for you?
It actually started when I was about 12, 13. I saw it on TV, this interesting sport. I didn't know what it was because I didn't know it existed. I didn't know it was a sport because in Italy, it's mainly soccer, basketball, tennis, golf, and a few other sports, but we don't really play any American sports like baseball. There is a little bit now of football. I discovered all these sports, but I didn't know at the time. So my mom actually she bought Sky Sport. So we had all the packages. That's insane. Because on regular TV they didn't show it, but on Sky we had ESPN and they used to show some college games, some NFL games at times. So just like roaming through channels, one time I saw this sport. I was like, that looks so interesting. Let me go Google it. Let me go search it up a little bit. And I started finding more and more videos on YouTube, highlight tapes of Ray Lewis, Richard Sherman. And it just looked really interesting. And I was um, in a phase of my life where I was trying to figure out what sport I wanted to do because that's when I got off of swimming, which my mom forced us to do for the majority of our childhood. And she was like, you can pick your own sport. So that looked interesting and I tried it, which it didn't last long when I was 13, but then I picked it up. I picked it back up when I was 16 and then I stuck with it and now I'm here.
Was there like a league that you played in Italy?
Yeah, we have like a championship with, since, as you know, in Italy, we don't play sports in schools.
Right.
We have leagues based on age. So we have an under 16 league, under 19 league, and then we have what we call Serie A series, or Chief Nave, which are different like levels. So we have a main league and then sub leagues that you can enter when you're about 17, 18, 19. Technically 19, but I started playing when I was 17 in the major league in Italy.
Who was your, I mean, like you say, football wasn't huge when you were growing up. Who was your sporting idol? Who did you grow up watching, whether it be a soccer player, golf player, basketball player? Who is it?
I would probably say Francesco Totti
Yeah.
from Rome. At the time growing up, I grew up like in Roma, and he was the main star. He was the main guy in Rome. Everybody knew him, so that's what I would say.
How big would you say football is now in Rome compared to where it was when you first got into it? I mean, I went to Rome last year and I couldn't believe how many NFL jerseys I actually saw. And I don't know whether that's a touristy thing, but it seemed to be a lot of local people as well. How big do you think it is over there now?
I think it's bigger, and I think it's growing. There's um, two historic team in Rome came together to form a bigger one, you know, with a better society, with more money behind, which one of them was Lazio Marines, the team that I used to play for, and Grizzlies Roma. They formed the Ducks Lazio. And they're evolving. They're trying to get as many players as they can. They're trying to go into school and teach the sport to kids. So I'm happy to see that.
And I guess one of the big questions of your journey is how did you end up in America? How did that move come about in the end?
Well, when I was about 16, 17, I was playing for the under 19 national team, Italian national team. And we have this championship in Europe where we play all the other countries. And we played Serbia in Serbia in back in 2017 in the spring. And one of the coaches that was coaching us at the time had contacts with the head coach of the high school where I ended up going in Clearwater, Jesse Chincher. And he saw me playing, I would say, fairly well. And he was like, I think you would have a shot if you try to go to the US to play football. Would you be interested in it? So I dropped everything that spring, got my visa, and went over there in June.
What did mum think of that? Did she try and talk you out of it, or was it again, this is what you want to do, go do it?
That's her. She was like, "Is this what you really want to do? Then get a ticket and go. Just enjoy it." She always pushed us to leave, to go discover, to take our own path. For example, my brother just moved and went to live in Australia
Wow.
just because he felt like it. And yeah, she was extremely supportive. She said, if it ever goes bad, you have a home here, you can come back. So go give it your 100%, and then whenever you want, you have a home back here, so you can come back.
Well, what were your first impressions? Because very different place, America to Italy. What were your first impressions when you get over there? And what was that first year like as well?
I'll say first impression, when I stepped off the plane, I was just blown out by how big everything was. Like, I saw huge trucks that we don't have in Italy because they pollute too much. They're illegal. So I'll say these huge lifted trucks with speakers and big cars and huge highways. And I went to eat at Hooters for the first time. Actually, that's where they brought me. And they had these huge plates with tons of food. And I'm like, what is this? Why is this? Why is everything bigger? Did I shrink or something? And that was the first impression. But people are pretty kind. I ended up landing in Florida. Really nice people, beautiful weather. I love the beach. So living in Florida was a plus for me. And the culture is different. Everything is faster. Everything is bigger. People always thinking about hustling, about the money, uh, about making a way, which I don't think is the best because sometimes you need a break as well. But this is how they like it. So
What was it a bit besides your family back home? Was there anything that you missed about Rome and living in Italy?
everything, the food, the culture, lifestyle, my friends, my family, as you said, even the most simple things, just walking around in a park or going to an art museum, or which they have here in the US too, but I don't, it's different. The air is different. In Italy, we have the dolce far nulla, the sweetness of doing nothing, just sitting and doing nothing. Here, I got so much into this that when I'm sitting just on the couch at home, sometimes I feel guilty because I'm not doing something, which is it's different. But I love to just go back home and relax. Maybe drink one good cup of wine because I stopped drinking alcohol when I came over to US. So I might drink one cup when I go back to Italy.
I mean,
But especially the food, the food is it's a huge difference.
yeah, I guess when you go to Pittsburgh, especially, I mean, did the stereotypes follow you there? I mean, was it, can you cook for us? What we're gonna have pizza tonight, spaghetti? Are you gonna cook? What was it like? Did those stereotypes follow you?
A little bit. They're like, so you like pizza and pasta? The most interesting thing is that they would ask me how the Italian food is here compared to Italy, which is Italy is just Italy. Everybody knows Italian food. It's just like top of the top, one of the best cuisines around the world. And here in America, and here in the U.S., they have a huge Italian population that migrated after World War II or whatever it is. So they have a lot of dishes that became Italian American. So they have an American version of some Italian dish they reconstructed or they built different, which we don't have back in Italy, like chicken Alfredo or I don't know, you name it, pizza with pineapple. And they ask me if that's real or how does that taste, and I still refuse to eat some of that stuff because like putting chicken on pizza or like that Alfredo sauce, I just can't do it.
I mean, Italians are very proud people when it comes to food. I mean, I don't know if your family came over and visited, but what would they think of the food in America compared to back home?
They're not really happy and satisfied. It's just hard to find healthy food, and
Yeah.
it's super expensive. The Italian food is just Italian American. For example, my brother just refused to eat pizza in the U.S. because he was mad that it wasn't like back home. But I'm not as picky as him, so I really just eat everything unless a couple things like pineapple or chicken on pizza. But yeah, we can't complain. You can find a good food around here in the U.S. What I really love is they have a lot of variety. So one day you might eat Thai food, another day you might be Chinese, Japanese, South American. It might be some Canadian poutine. So it's really multicultural, even in the food, and I love that.
When you do go and look around Pittsburgh, when you did go and look around Pittsburgh, how big a part of the appeal was the Italian club there? I know a lot of people speak about the Italian club there at Pittsburgh, and I believe you started talking to someone there in Italian, and maybe that warmed your experience when you went to the ground. What was that like?
That's a great thing. Here in Pittsburgh, there's a huge Italian community. So they are concentrated in this neighborhood, which is called the Strip District. That's close to downtown here in Pittsburgh, and that's a place where I go a lot. When I came and visited the University of Pittsburgh while I was in high school, that's where they brought me, and they try to sell this Italian heritage to me. And every once in a while, I'll be finding some Italian people. I'll be making friends with them, especially for example, I know like some restaurant owners or cafe owners, which I go there and eat and just chat with them. And there's a super funny place called La Prima Cafe. I know the owner of that place, which is Italian. And there's a bunch of old Italian men that always sit around the table and start playing cards. And every once in a while, I go play cards with them and just chit chat.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how well did they take you in, and how welcome did you were you made to feel there? Did you get to kind of just sit down and do things you might do back home, like watch a game of football, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the thing that in Italy, people are super divided between North and South. It might be Rome against Naples. It might be Sicily against like Milan, you know. But once everybody migrates and find themselves in a different country, the sense of I would say love for your nation, you know, all these differences fade away, and you just become a huge group. So like Italians in here are way tighter than how they are in Italy because they gotta face different environment. You know, they gotta stick together to be stronger. So once you're here, it doesn't really matter where you're from in Italy or like what you think. It's just Italian, so it's a huge family.
When we look at your kind of journey on the field, where would you say you are now compared to when you first stepped on the field at Clearwater? What's your development been like, do you think? Because maybe it's more noticeable than other players that you're around because you're maybe a latecomer to it. What have you made of where you were and where you are now?
I'm light years away from how I was when I started. Um, the average player here in the U.S. has been playing since they were like 4 to 6 years old. So at this level, they've been playing for 14 to 17 years, everywhere in between. I've only played for 6, 7 years, so I'm really fresh to the sport. But every year, I just worked as hard as I could to even out the gap, to tighten the gap, to become better 1% every day. And I think it's really noticeable if we compare my tape from high school to my tape from last year. I look like a different person, a different player, and that's what I love to do. I love to work hard and improve myself in every aspect that I can every single day to become the best player that I can be and beat all my competition. That's how I got here.
When you look at your 2021 campaign, did that feel like it was almost your breakthrough moment? And if so, what do you think contributed to that? Was it just you maybe expanding those pass rush moves? Did you just feel a more complete player? What was it, do you think, that contributed?
It was definitely a highlight of my career. I think that I've been pretty solid since I started playing. Actually, freshman year, I was in list for freshman All American, which is like the prize for the best freshman or newcomer of the year. I didn't end up winning it because a dude did better than me, but after that, I just kept playing. But 2021 was definitely a special year. We had a great team, and I was able to put it all together. My pass rush, my run stopping. I was getting after the quarterback. I was getting a lot of sacks in TFL. I was healthy, and that was the major thing. So 2022 as well, I'm happy about my season. The numbers weren't the same, but I was hurt, so I couldn't push as hard. and but I was still dominating on the field, and that's why I think people from the NFL are have been noticing, you know. But 2021, as you said, was definitely my breakthrough year.
Has there been a moment during your pit career where you've learned the most about yourself as a player, whether it be an opponent that's given you the toughest game that you've had and you've learned the most about yourself? Is there any big kind of standout learning moments for you?
Uh, I mean, I just try to learn from every opportunity that I get, from every player that I go against. A huge learning moment was certainly my first game. I started understanding what it was like to play, to be on the field, to actually get my first sack. I got my first sack, my first game ever. So that was a huge learning moment. And then I would say 2021 against Western Michigan, we played this game where we had to learn not as much as a person, but as a defense. And we came together with the whole team a lot more and learned a lot from the game and got way better.
When we look at this time of year, you'll probably see hundreds of scouting reports about yourself. Some you'll agree with, some you won't agree with, whether you read them or not, I don't know. If you were to kind of, when you have to sell yourself to teams in these team interviews, how do you sell yourself? What is the team that drafts you getting?
That's what I try to explain to every team is the person that I am and the player that I am. Because at this point at the combine, everybody's athletic, everybody's running fast, jumping high, so that doesn't really matter. But what made me different is my intelligence and my love for hard work and grind. You know, I get better a lot every year. Every year I come back and I'm just like a different player from the year before. My football IQ is really high. I love to watch film and to learn. I'm a student of the game. And that's what a lot of players are not. So that's where we differ. And I'm really versatile. I played a lot of sports growing up, so I have a lot of different skill sets that other people don't have. And I play a lot of different positions on the field. So that's what teams get, a versatile, really smart player, you know, that is has the athletic tools as well, just everybody else.
You mentioned there you're a bit of a love watching film. Is there anyone in particular you watch and take notes from or try and emulate in some ways?
I watch a lot of different players. I'll be putting on tape from every team and just watching their defense, just running through tape. A player that I love for my pass rush is Chandler Jones. I like his pass rush style, and I try to emulate some of his moves, you know. That will help me in 2021. I kind of find my own style of pass rush, which worked really well. And players like Trey Flowers or Bosa Brothers, whoever I can learn from, I try to learn from.
What are the traits do you think that you pride yourself on? Is it the bend off the edge? Is it that transition from speed to ball rush? Is it kind of those pass rush moves? What is it that you think makes you stand out?
I would say my moves are really good. The way I use my hands and my timing, and then my IQ. Because by studying that much tape and the teams that I go against and the tackles that I go against, I most of the times I know what's going to happen before it happens, so I can anticipate it and I can beat them to the spot.
We see more and more in the league nowadays. It's kind of a mix up between 3-4, 4-3 defense. Teams will chop and change throughout games at times. Do you feel like you can play both comfortably? Is that ever kind of does that come up in team interviews as well? Which you'd rather play?
Yeah, that's the thing. Older teams see me as a hybrid DN, so I could play as a hand down 4-3 DN or as a stand up 3-4 outside linebacker. I showed it at Pitt. I dropped in coverage. I played as three techniques. So I'm an extremely versatile player. At the combine, I was dropping in coverage, making it look smooth like I did that every day of my life.
What was that combine experience like? Because you'll have watched many of your teammates go through it in the past, and now all eyes are on you. What was that week like?
It was insane, hard to describe because last year I was invited by this NCAA program to the combine to watch as a prospect for the year after. And it's so different watching it from the stands or watching in TV from actually living it, being in it. It's a grind. It's tough. It's 5 tough days. Waking up early, going to sleep late, talking to a lot of people, doing a lot of different stuff, exams, medical exams. But it's definitely rewarding. It's love. I love the whole experience. People only get to see the field workout, which is about 7, 8 hours of 5 days that we're there. So there's a lot of behind the scenes. but it was a really enjoyable experience. I love doing everything. It's gonna be a memory that I keep with me for my whole life, and it's a blessing, because only about 320 people, 319 get invited, so it's not for everybody.
Just the last few before I let you go off, I wanted to ask you about your teammate Kaladja Kansi. Lots of talk about him this season. How excited should we be about him in the NFL next year and for the next few years? He is some player.
He's an insane player. He's a better person. He's gonna shock a lot of people in the NFL. I believe that people are not understanding yet the type of player that he is and that he can become. I think he will make a pretty big impact in any team that he will land on. So I'm really excited to see which team he lands on and what he's going to do.
Just a few quick fires before I let you go. So I wanted to ask you your NFL idol. I know you were late to it, but who did you grow up watching and wanting to be in the NFL?
Uh, I'll say watching, not wanting to be. I would say Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas.
Any reason in particular? Just the way they play?
I just love the way they played physical, tough defense. Uh, they were just hard workers.
A player you can't wait to face in the NFL. Could be a quarterback, could be a tackle.
The left tackle from the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes. That'd be a war. That's a war. I love that.
I like hard challenges.
Yeah. And a player in the NFL you'd love to play with.
Um, one of my old teammates, Patrick Jones, Rashad Weaver, Jalen Twyman.
Love that. And just finally, for you, representing Rome, representing Europe as well, what will it mean to hear your name called throughout that draft week and for you and your family as well?
It will mean the world. It will mean that all the hard work that I've been that I've been putting in, all the missed birthdays, people I haven't seen for years, everything um, was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you the best of luck in the draft, and hopefully we'll see you over in the UK to play one day. And yeah, we wish you all the best for the next few weeks.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. Take care between now and the draft. Keep safe.
Have a great one.
Yes, you too.